It's big small talks with Chucky, me and you. It's big small talks, BSing with the group. It's big small talks, expanding points of view. It's big small talks. It's big small talk.
You know, I heard about crypto years and years ago and wish I would have gotten then, like most people.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what it was. It was super hard to even figure it out and to figure out how to even get into it. But I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it was really weird when it first came out. It was like, it's this like side thing. It was always kind of sketchy, or like nobody knows what it is. And then of course everyone like big was talking kind of against it. So you're like, I don't trust it. But...
Absolutely. Yeah. It was just a very unknown thing. Plus it was just the learning curve and the entry to get into it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And so I just remember thinking about it. I remember I had a little, it was like a cousin, and he's like, yeah, I'm mining Bitcoin on my laptop. He had like the oldest, slowest laptop. And I'm like, how's that even possible? Like, I don't think this is legit. But at that time, Bitcoin, I remember it going up to $1,500. And I was like, this is insane, you know?
Yeah, right.
Thinking that was just the craziest thing ever.
$1,500
for a Bitcoin. Like, what?
Yeah, for an online coin.
Yeah, it was just weird to me. I didn't get it. And so I just remember thinking like, man, I remember looking at like the top coins and thinking like, oh, I'd like to own that one because it's worth like 0.00007, you know, whatever.
Yeah, right.
It was so cheap.
I'll buy one.
Well, I'm like, oh, I could buy 1 million of them. You know, it cost me like $70. Well, you know, that I remember that coin because I remember it back then looking at it, and I remember like being serious, like I want to buy this. It was a coin called XRP or Ripple, and it would literally, it was, I don't remember how many zeros, but there was a lot of zeros prior to it, and so. And I remember seeing like, oh, okay, Ethereum, but Ethereum was still kind of expensive too. And so those were the top three, right? Bitcoin, which was definitely too expensive. Ethereum was still expensive for me, and then XRP. But again, I just kind of like didn't really pay attention. I didn't know enough about it. I didn't have the education.
Right.
And so I honestly just said, I'm not going to get into it. I don't, because of that was, that kept me out of it.
Yeah.
And obviously that was, a bad decision, a bad decision.
It was a decision by all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think most people look and they go, yeah, I should have done that. Right. I mean, I think most people would say that.
Because even if you put, 10, 15, 20, whatever it was, like, just low amounts of money.
Yeah, I could have put in at that time. I probably could have put in $100, and today it probably would have been worth $100,000, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I think it probably had 1,000x at least at that point. So it was insane. Again, it was just like thinking about it then. But so what ended up happening was I talked to a friend of mine who said he's like, we were talking. He's the same business I am. So we were talking business. And so I was just saying, we were talking about last year, and it was kind of a crazy year. And I said, yeah, I had a really good year last year. It was super busy. Doing mortgages mainly. I didn't even really talk about that, but obviously with the real estate broker, I became a mortgage broker as well. And so I was doing last year, I was doing a lot of loans because
another refi boom.
2020, yeah, another refi boom. We dropped under 3% for this first time ever. And so there was another refi boom. So I was doing a ton of business that he does the same thing. And so he's like, I did really well too. I made way more money in crypto than I made in doing mortgages. And I was like, what? Like, how is that possible? Because I know he probably made. I mean, I'm guessing he probably made $300,000-400K in mortgages last year, something like that. So I'm like, he did better in crypto. I'm like, what?
How is that possible?
Yeah. So I started talking to him. He never gave me the numbers, but pretty much the way that I figured it out was, he said something and about how much he invested, and he maybe say he invested about $100K or something, and then he pretty much said, yeah, he just kind of another time said, oh yeah, and like I 10x my money or something, and I'm like,
doing the math.
100K times 10, so he made $1 million last year. Okay, so I'm like, first thing I said was, thanks, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks for telling me.
Yeah.
Like, really? You didn't tell me that you found this gold mine and anybody could get in it? And
not when you doubled your money, but when you 10 times your money, that's when you decided to tell me.
I'm just like, what? And so he tells me after there was a crash in April, period of time. And so he tells me after this, and I'm just like,
the stock crash?
No,
or the crypto crash?
Crypto.
Oh, okay.
So there was Bitcoin hit an all-time high, roughly $65,000, and then it dropped back down. So I got in, right after it, kind of towards the bottoming out. And that's what I started to just pour into it. So that was, I mean, it was May. So I'm new. Like I'm still a baby in it. But what I did though was I just began to educate myself and just try to literally, like, I felt like what I've done is I've just been like taking, just crypto courses, I mean, honestly, like the amount of time I feel like that I'm pouring into just the learning aspect and trying to understand it. I'm probably, probably 30 to 40 hours a week. You know what I mean? Just doing that.
Yeah.
Because I just felt like, man, I need to learn this.
I mean, any kind of investing, you got to know like the business, know the market as a whole, know the companies, it's so much different factors that go into it.
And with crypto, there's a whole different learning curve too, because even just the entry factor, getting into it, like, am I just going to go on Coinbase and go, buy some crypto, or, you know what I mean? Like, how am I going to
Am I going to Robinhood?
Yeah. Where do I go? Do I go to Robinhood? Do I go to, Coinbase? Do I go to Venmo? Do I go to PayPal? Do I go, and the cool thing is there's all these avenues, which these weren't around before. So, so even learning that, right? So, now one that is kind of, they just did a mass marketing campaign that I ended up starting out with was crypto.com.
Yeah.
And so they have an app. Unfortunately, because we're in the United States, you can't use their exchange online, but you can use the app. There's a learning curve to it. But it allows you opportunity to get money, to transfer money there, or to buy, buy crypto. And the cool thing about it is their fees are a lot less than Coinbase. So
yeah. Well, and there's tons of stuff out there. So if you are like learning one of these apps, I mean, you could just YouTube a tutorial. I mean, and you'll find, crypto.com tutorial, you'll find 10 videos just on there.
Oh, absolutely.
How to help you.
You just have to do the research at the end of the day. You have to put in the time to learn it. There is a learning curve, but this is what I'll say. I'll say the reason why is because we're still early.
Yeah.
And so I always hear, there's a guy that I listen to, and he always says, he goes, you're not the earliest, but you're still early. You know what I mean? Like you're still not like in the very beginning, but you're still early. And so there's a saying that on crypto Twitter that you see a lot of times is you'll see GM a lot. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And the whole idea behind that is we're still early, man. Good morning. Like it's still morning time, bro. Like, we're good. Like if you're in it, good morning. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's a good mindset to have, like going into crypto, is that if you're thinking, oh, I missed it, man. I missed Doge when it was, at 70 cents. I missed Shiba when it was at, 0.000008, what it was just, last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever. But you haven't missed the boat yet,
Right.
The reality is it's still very early. So good morning, people. And honestly, like put the time in, learn about it, because as far as asset classes go, so again, assets, liabilities, right? That was my thing that I learned. And I always looked at as real estate that's the best asset class, which I still believe real estate's a great asset, and I do believe in diversification. I'm not a, all in on this one specific type of asset class. But one of the things that intrigues me about crypto is that it is the fastest appreciating asset class in history, right? That we've ever seen. Right. It's actually the fastest, not only is it that, it's the fastest adopted technology we've ever seen in history, faster than the internet, faster than the VCR, DVD, whatever, digital, MP3, whatever music, you know what I mean? Digital music, all that kind of stuff. It's faster than any of that stuff. So the reality is that it's, even though we're still early, it's growing at an exponential pace, which is why we see the type of gains that we see.
Yeah. Going to the moon.
To the moon. My nephew, he was an astronaut for Halloween, and I recorded a video of him saying to the moon. I was like, I need to record you saying that.
Yeah,
he was an
and have the little Doge thing behind him.
Yeah,
nice.
So obviously, like a lot of people. So I did get in like via Doge, which is kind of funny. I got in via Doge. That's what I mean. It was like tied to that. I got in through Robinhood, which both of those were two of probably the worst decisions that I could have made. But it was just part of the learning process.
I a lot of people did Doge, Robinhood.
Yeah, a lot of people now, Coinbase and Shiba, or what I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Like who knows? But the whole idea is that no matter how you get in, it doesn't really matter. But if you want to get in and grow rich and stay rich, like you have to learn.
Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate to have an internship with you, so you kind of like were giving me all the knowledge, and I was like, okay, cool. Because if not, I wouldn't know where to look or the videos or whatever. But now it's like, now that I see it, it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. I want to teach it too. It's like one of those things is once you have the code, once you learn that, it's like, okay, now it all makes sense. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, man, it's like another saying that is super popular, and there's so many things like, so many different phrases and things like that in the crypto realm, but
crypto Twitter,
crypto Twitter especially. But there's the WAGMI, we're all gonna make it. Like
nice.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Like you're either NGMI, not gonna make it, or we're all gonna make it. The idea behind that is that there's a community aspect to it, which is what made Doge so crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even Shiba now too, is the community aspect. Like that's what makes it really cool, because it isn't this idea of like, oh, I'm the only one. See, as far as if you wanted to get in the stock market and you want to become rich in the stock market, chances are you have to be part of that insider, group, right? You have to know someone, or you have to have a certain amount of clout or whatever. Because the reality is it's a very exclusive club.
Well, before Robinhood, I think I remember reading that to be able to trade stocks, you needed like 250 grand in the bank. You needed there were so many things you needed to basically do it. The average person couldn't, which is why the Robinhoods and whatever came out.
No, that's exactly what it was. I mean, you had to go through either a brokerage or something, and you had someone do it on your behalf, and and even then, I mean, let's compare stock market, right? S&P 500 last 10 years, 16% average return. It's been killing it, 16% average return, right?
Yeah,
that's amazing. Bitcoin last 10 years, 200% average return. If you had put $30 a month, listen to this, if you put $30 a month into the S&P 500, okay, for the last 10 years at 16% interest, you would end up with about $7,800, something like that.
Okay.
If you had put $30 a month in Bitcoin at a 200% annual return, you would have $20 million. So again, like it's all about what do you want to do, man? Like, if you really want to, potentially have life-changing, opportunity, you have to see what's out there and see what the opportunities are and see what assets that are going to do that for you. You know? And here's the thing, it's volatile. Like crypto is super, the volatility is what makes it so great.
Right.
But it's bad when it crashes, obviously.
I mean, yeah, that's why you're like, don't put your entire savings in it.
Yeah,
but
what I would advise, and I'm not a financial advisor, right? So this isn't financial advice, but what I would advise, just from like a, if I was talking to my son saying, hey man, you're putting money, just like I'd tell my son, go put money in a savings account, or, what I would say is start little, you know what I mean? Start small and watch what it does. And then adjust what you want to do based upon what that does. Because when you begin to see the effects of it, I mean, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
I let's see. I was working with you starting in probably June.
Yep.
And I think I started putting actual money in probably August. I've doubled my money already.
Yeah. Which there's nowhere else you could do that, right? Again, there's no other asset class, anything you could have invested in that you would have done that other than crypto. Unless again, you found like a specific company that just happened to double in value, which, those are very few and far between.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, and it doesn't mean that, we're all going to be, just filthy rich and have $20 million, right? If I put $30 a month, that's not the idea behind it. What it is, it's understanding that this is a new asset class. It's a very, it's a very fast growing asset class.
Yeah.
And
there's money there to back it up too.
There is. Oh yeah.
Do you, Loren, do you mind pulling up the if you go to like, what's a good one? CoinGecko or CoinStats?
Let's go to CoinMarketCap. So it's just CoinMarketCap.
Just so we could show people who are watching how much money is actually in.
Yeah, this is crazy too. So yeah, let's at the very top, you can see where it says market cap. You see that on the very top little banner there. It is, yeah. So let's look at that number. You know what that number is? Oh, Charlie can't read it from all the way over across.
I got my glasses.
You see it a bit.
Oh, it doesn't show on that. Don't click on it. Go back to it because
go back to the main page.
Yeah, go back because it doesn't actually. That's just showing like the change in
top.
it.
Scroll down a little bit.
I can read it from here. Go up to the very top again. So it's 2 I'll read the numbers out and then I'll tell you how much it is. So it's 2,938,126,409,833. So that's $2.9 trillion. Now scroll down a little bit. Let's just look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's market cap is 1,286,852,287,606. That's $1.2 trillion.
Just in Bitcoin.
Just in Bitcoin. Just in Bitcoin alone. So we're talking about trillions of dollars, obviously. So this isn't a, oh yeah, there's a little bit of money in it. No, we're talking about, so the idea is that when we start looking at assets that are this big, you start comparing them to other assets, right? And so we look at companies like, Facebook and Apple and Netflix and all these big companies, right? Part of like the FANG stocks, Google.
Yeah.
Can you pull up real quick? Can you pull up the market cap of Apple? Will be a good comparison. They're obviously the biggest company in the, in the world.
Did you get all you got from this?
No, keep going down. Let's see what the.
I know they've said that Apple's market cap.
There you go. Hits 2 trillion. Okay, so look at Google hits 2 trillion. It says on that Yahoo Finance right there. Okay, there you go. 2.468 trillion. So crypto has just passed recently. This is in the last couple months. We've just exceeded
Apple.
The largest company in the world, right?
And Bitcoin's half of it.
And Bitcoin's half, right? And Bitcoin, obviously, for it to double at this point, it wouldn't be that difficult for that to happen. And so the whole idea is that, even though we're still early, I mean, how long did it take Apple to get there,
Let's say 2001?
It was low. I mean, obviously, it took a long time. It was under $500 billion, it shows right there. In the, it wasn't until 2012 that it exceeded 500 billion.
Right.
So the amount of time that took. I mean, I remember Apple when I was a little kid in elementary school, and they weren't even called Apple. They wouldn't call them Apple, the computers. They were called Macintoshes.
Oh,
right.
And there was like the Apple like 2E or something like that. They were super old computers, but again, it was a known company and it was a big computer company, but I mean, they were small compared to, now, obviously. Now we're, it's obviously the largest company in the world. So the whole idea is this isn't like, some small thing.
There's actual money to back it. So it's not I know it sounds sketch sometimes when you first think about what is this crypto? What are these websites I have to go to? And
is it a Ponzi scheme?
Yeah, right.
And the reality is there is a lot of that. So one of the things that I also saw on there too on CoinMarketCap is up there. It had the amount of cryptos, and it showed 13,000 some. So the reality is the vast majority are scams. Like they're Ponzi schemes. Like a lot of these are, and
or it's super high risk.
Super high risk. But when we look at just right there, the top 5, top 10, top 100. These are solid. Most of these, I would say the vast majority of them are solid companies, essentially. They're projects, but they're solid companies that are doing pretty amazing things.
Yeah.
And so, but I told you, I don't want to go too deep into some of these big ones, but I did want to talk just a little bit about the idea of crypto and kind of explain
basics. How does it work? So, is it tied to anything? What's the deal?
Yeah. So let's start off. First, the thing, right? Money. Okay. Just talking about money. Like money comes in all different shapes and forms, and we obviously now how we spend money. Most of the time we spend money, it's in digital form, right?
Yeah.
Whether we're using Apple Pay or Google Pay or we're using our
I use Apple
debit
Pay all
card.
the time now.
Yeah.
That's all I use.
It's digital money at the end of the day, right? And so very few of us are walking around with cash in our hands and spending cash on a daily basis.
Right.
I stopped literally. I pretty much stopped using cash. As soon as like debit cards became like the thing, and that was a long time ago, and so I just was like, no, man, why? Like, because the reality, this was my thinking then. If I have $20 and I want to go buy something, like, now I have $6 left, or let's say I have $16 left, I'm going to spend that, like it's going to be gone. But if I have my debit card and I pay $4 for something, I'm not spending that extra $16,
right.
Because I don't have the cash burning that hole in my pocket. That's, as a young guy, that's what I was thinking. So.
But now I feel like it's almost even opposite, where it's like I see the cash.
It does kind of switch, yeah. So now it switches with people. Now it's like because it's digital, it's not real.
Yeah, right.
So
now I
can
just swipe it.
Yeah, I can just spend it whenever I want to. It's all about how you look at it. But the whole thing is at the end of the day, digital. Money became digitized in that sense, right? So like if we were to go to a bank right now, and every single person were to say, hey, I want to empty out my bank account. I want to take all my money out. You couldn't do it.
No,
you can't do it. right? Because it's fractionalized, right? There's not, it's fractionalized reserve system. There is not, they do not have the funds there, right?
Well, didn't that start because back in the day there was run on banks? And
yeah, exactly.
Isn't that what the Great Depression actually kind of?
I don't know.
I think it was the Great Depression that there was the run on banks, and then all the banks didn't have money.
Yeah, that was a thing where there were runs on banks, and then as soon as that happens, you have to shut it down.
Yeah, so you're insured a certain amount of money, but but they don't have the cash just sitting there.
Yeah, they don't have the cash there. So at the end of the day, money has been digitized, right? The problem with it is that money is still centralized. So meaning that it's still controlled by a central bank, as well as, banks that are centralized, right?
Yeah.
And so if it's Wells Fargo, it's a centralized Wells Fargo network that your money is centralized with. Same thing with Chase and Bank of America and all these banks, right? And so, and then as a whole, like from in the United States, we have a central bank, right?
Yeah.
Where everything is centralized, right? Well, what the whole institution and creation of Bitcoin, the idea behind it was decentralization, which essentially means that no central organization or government or person owns this, but rather it's decentralized. It's owned by the people.
Right.
And so it became money that was owned by the people. And the way that worked was there was a network established, and that network was comprised of different, nodes or computers all over the place, and they were all doing certain mathematical equations with this new, what was called blockchain technology, which essentially allowed them to secure the network, but also too allowed the network to keep going. Because really what the blockchain technology was it was a ledger. It was a record of transactions that were being done and things that were being done. And so, so what would happen is you would have these computers trying to figure out, do these mathematical equations through this blockchain technology to be able to secure the network and also, allow these transactions to be processed and recorded.
Yeah. We talked about it a little bit last week with Justin, but basically about how it's like authorizing these, right? It's kind of making it more solid. Is that what this blockchain is doing?
Yeah, it secures it, meaning that because obviously it's encrypted and encoded, and that's why it's called cryptocurrency, right? Yep. It's encrypted. It's cryptography is involved, which essentially is the securing of it.
Right.
And then along with that too, again, it's recording information. It's writing down, these transactions. So imagine, it'd be like this. You go to spend, you go Apple Pay and you go buy, let's say you go buy a water at 7-Eleven, or a Gatorade, and then that obviously goes across the network, whatever network that it uses, and it's recording. Okay, you spent this much via Apple Pay, at 7-Eleven with their system, right?
Right.
And it goes to your bank, and then it's all recorded. Well, the whole idea is it's the same idea with this type of ledger system, this technology. And so the Bitcoin network was created, and Bitcoin, the currency. So there's Bitcoin, the network, right? And then there's Bitcoin, the currency. The currency was a way to reward those people who were securing the network, who were allowing their computers to do it, which is considered mining.
Right.
Essentially they had their computer running these this code or algorithms or whatever it is.
Yeah,
this
and
software.
to clarify, they weren't actually doing anything. The users,
No.
You just open your computer.
Yeah, you just go in and you log in, and then you connect your node. Your node is now connected to all these other ones, and now
the computer just does its thing.
Now your computer is figuring out, because that's what a computer does. That's why it's called computer. It's computing, right? Mathematical equations. That's what it's doing. It's just computing. And then if you were the one that completed the block, if you were the lucky one that completed the block, guess what? You got rewarded, and you got rewarded with a Bitcoin. And so it took 10 minutes for each block to be completed roughly. And so whoever was the last one to complete the block, they got the reward, right?
Okay.
And so that was mining, right? And the idea that that's how people began to earn Bitcoin.
So you'd get it as a reward.
You get it as a reward. But the cool thing is Bitcoin also was a currency. It was a way to be able to send money digitally in a decentralized fashion, right? Not through going through any banks, but across a network across the world, right?
Yeah.
And
well, that's how I first learned about it, because I was doing sports betting.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a way to pay for it.
Yeah.
So
a lot of places started accepting cryptocurrency, and it became a payment. Then it was a payment method, and people think, oh, we're never going to use cryptocurrency as payment methods, and it's like the reality is we're going to use all kinds of things. as payment methods. I mean, that's just the reality. It's just going to be, you're going to choose, and companies are going to choose what they want to use and what is going to bring them the most value. So Bitcoin itself is not just a network, but it's also Bitcoin, the currency. And the cool thing about it there was when it was created to be very scarce, and it was kind of created after gold. Okay. And the idea of gold, because gold is very scarce, which makes it valuable.
Like the gold standard that the dollar was.
Yeah, obviously the dollar used to be based upon the gold standard. It was backed by the dollar was backed by actual gold right at one point, and then we went off of the gold standard, and ultimately that took away the inherent value of the dollar, which is where we have so much inflation and things like that. The dollar ultimately being worth a lot less, but when something is scarce, obviously that makes it more valuable, right? Rarity, scarcity makes things valuable. So Bitcoin became digital gold, right? And the cool thing about it is it had some of the properties of gold as far as its scarcity. You had to mine for it, right? You had to work to get it, right?
Yep.
And it could be used as a currency. Gold could be used as a currency. So there could be an inherent value from that. So with those aspects, it became very similar to gold, but it had some better aspects to it.
Right.
You could send it from, across the world within seconds, right?
No currency exchange.
Yeah. No exchange is needed. You could, if I wanted to send a bar of gold to someone, I mean, what would that even look like? I don't even know. Like, would I do that? I would be afraid to do that.
Yeah. I would have to go myself.
Yeah. But to send one Bitcoin to someone, which is worth, about probably the same. I don't know how much worth a bar. Can you look that up? How much is a bar of gold worth? 1 bar of gold.
Because Bitcoin is now at 60,000, 68,000?
Yeah, today all-time high 67. Did it break 68?
It's 68 and a half.
Oh, wow,
it went up $500 since we've been here.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Look at that. I said it's a good day, man. It's a green day.